Dr. S. KALAIVANI, Assistant Professor, Department of Education, Annamalai University. Now, we shall discuss about methodology of teaching of physical science. Now, I am going to discuss about certain important topics. First topic, Bloom's taxonomy of educational instructional objectives. Taxonomy of educational objectives is intended to provide for classification of the goals of our educational system. It is expected to help in the discussion of curricular and evaluation problems with greater precision. Dr. Benjamin Bloom's taxonomy of educational objectives attempts to classify educational goals under these three domains. See here, first domain, cognitive domain, next affective domain, third psychomotor domain. Bloom's taxonomy of cognitive objectives describes learning in 6 levels in the order of knowledge, comprehension, application, analysis, synthesis, evaluation. Then next domain, affective domain, it explains 5 objectives: receiving, responding, valuing, organization, characterization. Next third one, psychomotor domain. In this 4 objectives are explained. First one, manipulation, precision, articulation, naturalization. Then second important topic you have to see achievement test. Under that we have to see construction of achievement test. Achievement test is constructed on the basis of the objectives of teaching: knowledge, understanding, application and skill in the particular subject for which is to be made. See here, steps for construction and standardization of the achievement test. Under that we have to follow 5 steps. First step, planning. In planning step, you have to concentrate on objectives of the test, content of the test, size and type of the test, preparation of blueprint. Then second step, preparation. Under that you have to see item writing, checking by expert, item editing. Third step, administration. Under that you have to follow individual tryout, first tryout, second tryout or pilot study, then final tryout. Fourth step is item analysis. You have to follow the steps: arranging answer sheet in the descending order, difficulty value, discriminating power. Next, fifth step, standardization. Under that you have to see reliability and validity. Next we can see preparation of blueprint. The last step of test planning is the preparation of blueprint. It acts as a guide for writing items for preliminary draft. Test constructor sets various types of questions in blueprint and allots them marks depending on the time. Next, the test constructor describes his criteria for the achievement test in the form of 3-dimensional table known as blueprint. See here. Here you have to follow the objective to be tested, subject matter to be covered, the form of the questions. This is the format of a blueprint. In the horizontal axis we have to put objectives. In the vertical axis we have to put the content. Next, psychological basis of physical science. This is one of the important heading in teaching of physical science, because on the basis of psychological, teaching is essential for teaching learning process. So we can see topics one by one. In the first one, Piaget's theory of intellectual development. This is the John Piaget. He is the Swiss biologist working at J.J. Rousseau Institute of Child Study at Geneva in Switzerland. His Piaget's theoretical concepts explains the development of human intellectual abilities takes place as a result of the organization and reorganization of certain pattern of behavior called schema. Schemas constitute the structural units of human mind. Cognitive structure of Piaget. Schemas are the basic structural units of human mind. He explains assimilation, accommodation, equilibrium. Assimilation is the process of building mental representations by modifying one's environment or new experiences so that it fits into his already developed cognitive structure. Then second, accommodation. It is a modification of existing sensory motor patterns to deal with the new situation. Equilibrium, it is the process maintaining this both assimilation and accommodation. The equilibrium is the essential process in the Piaget stage. Next, stages of intellectual development. According to Piaget, cognitive development arises as a result of interaction between the individual and the world and passes through a series of sequential stages. He identified 4 major stages. First stage, see here, sensory motor stage. In this, the child begins to interact with the environment. Then second one, pre-operational stage. Here the child begins to represent the world symbolically. Third one, concrete operational stage. Here the child learns rules such as conservation. Fourth one, free operational stage. The adolescents can transcend the concrete situation and think about the future. Sensory motor stages between 0 to 2 years. Pre-operational stages between 2 to 6 or 7 years. Concrete operational stages between 7 to 11 years. Formal operation stages above 12. Next, another important topic, Erikson's theory of psychosocial development. Erikson theory of psychosocial development is one of the best known theories of personality in psychology. Much like Sigmund Freud, Erikson believed that personality develops in series of stages. Unlike Freud's theory of psychosexual stages, Erikson theory describes the impact of social experience across the whole lifespan. Erikson's 8 stages of psychosocial development. Under the first stage, from infant to 18 months, here the psychosocial crisis developed, trust versus mistrust. Next, the second stage, 18 months to 3 years. Here autonomy versus shame and doubt social crisis developed. 3 to 5 years, here initiative versus guilt crisis. 5 to 13 years, industry versus inferiority psychosocial crisis developed. 13 to 21 years, identity versus role confusion psychosocial crisis developed. 21 to 39 years, intimacy versus isolation social crisis developed. 40 to 65 years, generativity versus stagnation psychosocial crisis developed. 65 to an older age, ego integrity versus despair developed. Erikson psychosocial crisis, under that we can see meaning and interpretations, basic virtues, the potential positive outcomes arising from each of the crisis stages, maladaptations and malignancies, potential negative outcome arising from each crisis stage, Erikson's criminology, variations and refinements to names and headings, etc. Next theory, Goldberg's theory of moral development. In this theory, he explains the development of individual sense of justice. According to Goldberg, an individual passes through a stages of evolution of his sense of justice and in the kind of reasoning he uses to make moral judgments. Some concepts of Goldberg's moral development theory. First one, moral realism. Here, rules are fixed and rigid. We cannot break the rules. Second, moral cooperation. If your intention is right, you can break the rules. Third, moral dilemma. Confusion between the right and wrong. Fourth one, moral reasoning. It is a thinking process involved in the judgment of question of right and wrong. Let us see the various steps of Goldberg's theory of moral development. First, step 1, punishment and obedience orientation. Second, naive hedonism. Third, good boy, good girl morality. Fourth, conforms to avoid. Fifth one, conforms to maintain communities. Sixth one, individual principles of conscience. Next theory, Bruner's model of concept learning. This is the outcome of cognitive development. Cognitive development is thinking. The intelligent mind creates from experience generic coding system that permit one to go beyond the data to new and possible fruitful predictions. The children, as they grow, must acquire a way of representing the recurrent regularities in the environment. So, to Bruner, important outcome of learning includes culture categorizes phenomenon and language itself. Bruner would likely agree with Vygotsky theory. The language serves to mediate between environmental stimuli and the individual response. Bruner's 3 modes of representation. First mode, enactive mode. This is 0 to 1 years. Here, learn through movement of action. For example, play with a book. This appears first. It involves encoding action based information and storing it in our memory. Next one, iconic mode. In this mode, the year is 1 to 6 years. Learn through images or icons. Look at the pictures. This is where the information is stored visually in the form of images. For some, this is conscious. Others say that don't experience it. This may explain why when we are learning a new subject, it is often helpful to have diagrams or illustrations to accompany verbal information. Third one, symbolic mode. This starts from 7 years onwards. Learn through abstract symbols. Example, read for research. This develops lost. This is where information is stored in the form of code or symbol such as language. Bruner's constructive theory suggests that it is effective when faced with new material to follow a progression from enactive to iconic to symbolic representation. This holds true even for adult learners. Next topic, personalized system for instruction. Personalized system of instruction can be otherwise called as Keller plan. What is PSI? PSI means personalized system of instruction. This is student centered approach. PSI is the very important topic because this is student centered approach. Here the course and the topic is broken into modules into units, places more responsibility on student. The teacher is only monitor the class. Personalized system of instruction gets its name from the fact that each student is served as an individually by another person, face to face and one to one. The PSI teacher expects almost all of his students to learn his material well and is prepared to award high grade to those who do regardless of their relative standing in the class. Objectives of PSI: to establish better personal social relationship in the educational process, to provide frequent reinforcement for learning. Valuation is based on a fixed standard or mastery in a variable time period. The characteristics of PSI: self-paced, content mastery, student tutors, use of study guides, minimal use of lectures, division of course content into chunks. Steps in PSI: Keller divided the process for creating PSI into 3 steps. First step: determine the material to be covered in the course. Next, divide the material into self-contained modules. Then third one, create methods of evaluating the degree to which the learner has conquered the material in a given module. Thank you.